Hey everyone, and welcome back. I am so incredibly thrilled you're joining us for this explainer today. We are jumping right in, focusing squarely on ACIM Lesson 71. We're going to break down the source text, pull out the core philosophy, and look exactly at how its daily practices are set up. So let's just get right into it, shall we? Okay, let's dive into this. The core statement of Lesson 71 is clear and pretty bold. Only God's plan for salvation will work. Now, the text frames this as a massive philosophical shift. It essentially asserts that, right now, we are operating under a completely different, almost hidden plan. And honestly, it's the exact opposite of this statement. To really grasp this idea, we've got to recognize, and eventually let go of, a mental system that we have been unknowingly committed to for a very long time. To understand what that hidden system actually is, think about this for a second. How often do you tell yourself, if only this situation were different, I would finally be happy? Or maybe, if that person just acted differently, I'd finally have some peace, right? We all do it. The text identifies this incredibly common, highly relatable way of thinking as the ego. The ego's plan isn't some abstract mystical concept. It's literally just our everyday habit of seeking external validation and believing that our happiness lies entirely outside of ourselves. Section 1. The ego's failed plan. So, we don't even realize it, but the ego has essentially set up a master plan for our happiness that stands in total opposition to God's. In fact, to the ego, abandoning its own plan sounds completely preposterous. The whole foundation of this system rests on one major mechanism: a grievance. The source text defines a grievance as the assertion that, if this were different, I would be saved. Think about what that actually means. Every single time you hold a grievance, you are basically making a declaration. You're taking the impossible burden of change and slapping it onto everyone and everything except yourself. The text makes it super clear. According to the ego, the change of mind required for you to be happy is demanded of the entire world except you. Under this plan, your mind's only job is to play the victim, looking around constantly to figure out what else needs to change for you to finally be at peace. And here is the brutal truth about the ego's plan, summed up perfectly in its core doctrine: seek but do not find. According to the text, this insane plan will accept literally any perceived source of salvation, as long as it won't actually work. Crazy, right? Why would it do that? Well, because it ensures you're just going to keep searching. You'll think, okay, well, that person let me down, but maybe the next person is going to be the one. Or that job failed to make me happy, but the next one will definitely do it. It channels absolutely all of your efforts into hunting for happiness in places where it just doesn't exist. It's a plan that is quite literally designed to fail. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between these two approaches. On one side, we've got the ego's plan. It is completely externally focused, it relies entirely on holding grievances, and because you're looking for peace where it absolutely does not exist, it's guaranteed to fail. On the flip side, we have God's plan. It has an internal focus, it directs you to seek peace exactly where it resides, right there within you, and because of that, it is guaranteed to succeed. They are absolute, total opposites. And here's the thing, you really cannot straddle the fence on this. The text gives a massive warning here. If you try to follow two plans for salvation that are diametrically opposed in absolutely every way, your purpose becomes divided. And the result of that? The text says it brings confusion, misery, and a deep sense of failure and despair. I mean, you can't simultaneously believe that your happiness depends on other people changing, while at the exact same time believing true peace comes from within. Trying to mix these two paradigms together, it's just going to tear you apart. Section 2. God's plan works. So how exactly do we escape all that confusion? The text tells us it's actually incredibly simple. God's plan is the only one that is truly certain in its outcome. It absolutely must succeed, simply because by following it, you are finally looking for peace where it actually is, rather than where it isn't. Now, realizing that your old strategy, the ego's plan, isn't going to work might feel a little defeating at first. But the text is very explicit about this. Do not let yourself get depressed or angry about letting go of your own plans. Honestly, your past attempts to free yourself were, as the text puts it, mad proposals that only led to depression and anger anyway. So dropping the ego's plan, that isn't a loss to mourn. Releasing those insane attempts is exactly what paves the way for your full release, and it leads directly to profound joy. Section 3. Your daily practice. Okay, so we've got the theory down, but how do we actually put this into practice today? The lesson lays out a very structured, two-pronged approach. So the crucial point is that it asks for two different types of practice periods. First, you have your longer periods done twice a day, where you dedicate real time to ask for direction. And then you have these shorter periods, which are basically frequent, brief reminders taking half a minute or less, When you put these together, these two types of practice build this unwavering certainty in your mind all throughout the day. Let's zoom in on those longer sessions for a second. During these times, you're instructed to ask God very specifically for direction. The text actually gives us 3 exact questions to ask. What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? And what would you have me say and to whom? You basically give full charge of the practice period over to those 3 questions. And there is this absolutely beautiful reassurance in the source text here. It states that just the mere fact you are doing these exercises proves you have some willingness to listen. And that willingness alone, it's enough to establish your claim to the answer. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer intensity of the commitment required for the rest of your day, 6 to 7. For the shorter practice periods, the text asks you to try and remember today's idea a massive 6 or 7 times an hour. Just think about that. That is roughly once every 10 minutes. It's a continuous, active effort to recenter your mind. Taking just half a minute to remember the source of your salvation is, according to the text, literally the absolute best way you could possibly spend your time. Now, during those frequent check-ins, or really whenever you feel that sudden temptation to blame somebody else for your mood, the text gives you an exact phrase to use as an immediate mental shield. It goes, "Holding grievances is the opposite of God's plan for salvation, and only His plan will work." So when the ego starts whispering in your ear, trying to convince you that if only this person changed, I'd be happy, you just hit it right back with this phrase. It totally neutralizes the grievance and brings your focus right back inward. To wrap up our explainer today, let's lock this main lesson statement firmly into our minds. Only God's plan for salvation will work. We've seen how the ego's plan of holding on to grievances is really just a guaranteed trap of endless, frustrating searching. True peace absolutely requires an inward focus. So keep your practice schedule in mind today, 2 longer sessions asking those specific questions for direction, and then incredibly frequent hourly check-ins, 6 to 7 times an hour, to keep your mind completely shielded from holding grievances. I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. If you genuinely drop the demand for the world and everyone in it to change today, what kind of internal joy might you finally be able to experience? Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you in the next explainer.